Hey guys, so we just wanted to talk with y'all a minute on why we homeschool and how we homeschool. We have 7 kids, all ages from 19 down to 3, and our older 3 actually went to public school for several years. Our oldest spent her freshman year in public school. Nicholas was in his 8th grade, and so when we decided to homeschool, we'd actually played with the idea for a few years, but I did not feel like I was a teacher, so it was something that I just felt like wouldn't be able to do, especially since one of our kids, our oldest, is a sports fanatic, and then our middle one, so our next son, who would have been the middle son of the 3, were so much alike that we just butted heads all the time. So I didn't feel like I was going to be able to teach them. Not that they weren't teachable, but that I was not a teacher. And you would always say it was my decision. If I wanted to homeschool, it was something that I had to do because I was a homemaker and it would have fell on me, which you obviously would have helped, and you have helped over the few years since we started homeschooling. But when Brianna, our oldest, was a freshman, we had, prior that summer, really felt on our spirits to homeschool. And again, I was like, there's just no way. Brianna was super excited to be able to finally play high school volleyball, to get up to varsity and all this other stuff. And so we didn't. We just sent them to public school. And that was something that we just felt God had called us to do, and we said no. And from our disobedience and our lack of trusting in God to equip us with what we needed to teach our kids, or to equip me to teach our kids, we said no, and that was a really bad year. Our kids grew further away from us. We got to where we didn't even recognize a couple of them. The attitudes, the characteristics were just things that we knew we had not instilled or taught them to be. And so we sat down one day in spring break and we were like, this is not working. This is not working for our home. We saw that the things that one of our kids was bringing home and was kind of like bullying, for the lack of a better word, our younger kids. And we kind of just said, okay, we're done. So we told the older kids, hey, no more public school after this semester. When y'all get out in May, say bye to your friends because you're not going back. And they actually thought we were bluffing, which they say that we do that a lot, which I'm sure I do. But they said that, yeah right type thing. And I said, okay. And Dad kept warning them, Mom's not joking. Like, she's for real gonna pull y'all out. Y'all are gonna be homeschooled. We're gonna start looking at the curriculum. And come the end of the year, we didn't send them back, obviously, throughout that summer.
It was the fact that we didn't go school clothes shopping that really set the tone for Bree.
It was.
Because that's what she's always like. I'm gonna get new clothes every year. We're gonna go school clothes shopping. And when we didn't, that threw her completely. And then we went to Florida.
Yeah, so right after we made that decision, God totally removed you from your job that you'd been there for years. You were the assistant manager for the store, and moved you from that into starting our own business. And as soon as we made that decision for homeschooling, it's kind of like you quit your job at the big store, and then
it was a big transition.
Everything happened all at once. And so we went in August to Florida, and the kids did not go back to public school. We took all the devices away because we felt like we needed a clean break. We took phones, computers, tablets, no TV. We went to the extremes, because I tell my kids all the time, I will fight to the death for your salvation. Like, I will always fight spiritually for you to know who Christ is, and physically. Yeah, I will fight for my kids physically. But I tell them from the day they're born, I tell them I will fight for you until my very last breath. And no matter what it is, like, you may hate me at this moment, you may dislike us at this moment, but we will do what we feel like God is calling us to do, because your heart for Christ is way more important to us than your fleshly happiness. And our oldest now, just even 2 months in, after doing all, she didn't talk to us for 2 weeks. I mean, like complete silence. But after a couple months in, and her really starting to study God's word and develop that relationship again, which she had before, just to renew that relationship with Christ, she fell in love with Christ in a way that I've never seen at this time, 16-year-old do. And we knew we were on the right track. So slowly, obviously they got devices back and whatever. But during that whole first year and a half, I'd say, of school, we bought every curriculum I think that we could find, and none of it worked. It was something that we learned that not all of our kids learned in the same way. They were not taught in the same way, and bookwork was not.
They couldn't be taught in the same way.
No, they couldn't be taught in the same way. Bookwork was for sure not the forte of the majority of them. And so I had to get creative, and we started doing geography while we were traveling, and learned about the states as we traveled through them for the first couple of years. And we learned about presidents going through the states where the presidents, were born and raised and grew up, and just different things. And we learned that school for our kids was not just bookwork. They learned, Nicholas learned geometry working with you. He learned what angles were and how to do things with you at work. So Nicholas is a hands-on person. He doesn't learn in the bookwork. And whenever you have a real life situation, you're not handed a book and say, okay, well, here's your life situation. It's in a book. You have to actually use your hands and your mind and figure out how to use it. And so we just had to learn how to do it with all of ours. And so today, coming out to the state park, which is absolutely beautiful, and we've had a blast. We try to find a state park or a national park, any kind of hiking experience we can with every state that we go to. And this was our first time to be in Indiana, and Indiana has not failed. It's absolutely gorgeous up here.
There's a lot more here than just farm fields.
So much more, although the fields are beautiful.
But there's a lot more here that, like places like this, you wouldn't have thought this was here.
No.
After seeing all the farms that you drove through,
how flat it is. Yeah.
It looked like West Texas.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
Just flat, no trees, just flat.
Yeah.
Farm.
But coming out here, Eli and Susa and Charlotte having to grab a map and figure out, like, where do we want to go that this park has to offer? Like, where do we want to go? What do we want to see that the park has to offer in the time that we have? And them having to use a map to find their way. This is where, okay, where are we? This is where we are. Okay, well, how do you get to, which trail do you take, and all that stuff.
And it's not even just reading a map. It's reading the whole pamphlet.
Yeah, because they had to figure out how many miles.
They've got to be able to figure out how many miles that trail is by reading and locating, okay, this marker is right here on this map. Figure out what that marker is, read about it, decide whether or not we wanted to spend the time to go there. Do we want to spend the time to go here? And really just to decipher a pamphlet. And that's just stuff that is important.
It's important. I want my kids to be able to look at life in a way that is not. Yes, ma'am.
And the core subjects are very important. Reading, writing, math, science.
But they're reading while they're out here. They're
History.
they're reading signs. So Susa loves to read books. She's just now getting into reading books. But reading the same thing over and over, it becomes more of she's not having to use her mind to read it at that point. I want her to still have a challenge with reading.
She's very much like me. She gets to the point where she's just scanning through it, and then you ask her, what'd you read?
Yeah.
I don't know. I did it because I had to. You know
and that's what I don't want for her.
But if you ask me a question about this pamphlet, I'd say, what you need to know about it?
Yeah.
Because I was engaged into it.
And this pamphlet, whoever came up with this for the Turkey Run State Park, y'all did an amazing job. It's a very well written out map and pamphlet. But Susa having to read the signs of where we're at, like caution, do not go here, danger, do not do this. And there was and then the words employees, and then what was the other word that they had to learn?
Access.
Access.
6-year-old is
yeah, and
a
then
new word.
hummus. What is hummus? So there's different words that they're
Yeah.
not just learning to read, but they're also learning vocabulary. Okay, what is the definition of this word? So there are ways around kids who struggle with sitting at a desk all day long. Get outside, go to nature, find a state park local nearby, or take a little bit of a drive. Eli learns to read the highway signs. Which way do you go if you have to go
But
this
to
way?
be honest, it takes engagement. If you're
Yes.
not engaged in your children and you just
Let me
keep
see
them
it.
pacified, that's not engagement.
Yes, and that's our thing, is that when we are at home, thank you. Thank you. When we are at home, we are so busy. I mean, y'all see parts of our day already in a few of the videos that we've shared, but we have all of our daily stuff. Me as a mom having the 7 kids, which Nicholas is usually gone with you whenever y'all are traveling, and Brianna is older now, so I guess that really just puts me at saying I can say I have just the 5 kids to tend to, but doing school, housework, laundry, cooking.
We have 2 that we've graduated.
Yeah, 2 that we've
One
graduated.
that's fixing to start his first year of college.
Brianna's already finished her first
Brianna's
year.
already finished her first year.
Yeah,
And-
but with me having all of that stuff at home to do, the farm, the garden, I tend to get so focused on my everyday life that
Your chores.
yeah, my chores, that I forget about engagement. And that's something that I really feel like God has been pressing on my heart here lately, is to be purposeful in my engagement. Don't just engage because it's out of duty. Be purposeful in your engagement because that's what God called me to do. And so when we travel, I have to be engaged because I have to keep them going. I have to keep their minds going so that they don't get bored. They
Well,
don't wreak havoc in a
Staying in a
hotel.
hotel is boring.
It is boring
It's
for little
fun if
kids.
it's got a pool, but if it doesn't have a pool, it sucks.
And thankfully, this hotel that we're staying at this time does have a pool.
But more importantly,
but we didn't bring bathing suits.
we work nights. So you always try to give me a break so I can at least get some sort of
Yeah.
restful sleep.
But we travel, when we travel, even if it's just into town and we know we're going to have a long day, I always carry a deck of cards with me. You can come up with a ton of subjects that you can knock out in one day with just a deck of cards.
Counting is wonderful.
Yes, counting,
For the
number
smaller
recognition.
kids, for the smaller kids, counting colors. You know, learning
Your
colors
shapes.
and
I mean,
matching.
there's so much. And they have to seriously think about what their next step is. So they're having to figure out strategy and motive.
One, you're getting to play with your kids, which is that's time, but they're learning, and it's a win-win.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a workbook. Here, finish this. Let me know when you're done, because there's no engagement in that.
No. Our kids have learned math, like your basic math, more through a deck of cards that cost 88 cents, I guess, at the store. Very cheap deck of cards. They've learned their basic math with playing card games with me, because
Learning how to count points.
yeah,
Yes. I mean, that's a big thing right there. And when you got competitive people,
boys.
points are important.
Yeah.
So you're gonna make sure you know how to count all them points, and then
Yes.
also make sure mom ain't cheating. So you gotta count her points.
I don't cheat, but I am very competitive when it comes to card games.
No, you never cheat. I'm just saying we gotta keep you honest.
Okay, so the point of the card situation is get yourself a deck of cards, sit down with your kids, and play Go Fish. And whenever you're finished with the game, you say, okay, now go through and we're going to add up our points. Who has the most cards? Start with just cards. I have this many and this many, so 3 and 3, that's 6 cards. Or you start adding up the numbers, all the 9s, all the 8s. And they will slowly begin to pick up on math, and it's something that's fun. So they're going to want to retain, they will retain it because it means that they count faster, they get to the next game faster.